The first thing they erased wasn't our government. It wasn't our fleet. It wasn't even our name. It was our future. I was standing inside the Hall of 12 Suns when every star map in the chamber changed at once. One moment, my homeworld glowed among the recognized members of the Galactic Coalition. The next, it simply wasn't there. No explosion, no invasion, no declaration of war, just gone. "My name is Taran Voss," I said, though no one was listening anymore. "I serve as communications officer aboard the patrol cruiser Resolute." The Chancellor didn't even bother looking at our delegation. "The vote has concluded. By a majority decision of the Coalition Council, the Arkan Republic is hereby removed from Coalition protection. Effective immediately." Only Ambassador Selene Var looked toward the Council. Her voice never shook. "You promised no member world would ever stand alone." The Chancellor answered without emotion. "And we have chosen that the Coalition will not. If protecting your people means sacrificing everyone else, then your people become the sacrifice." Then the notifications began arriving. Coalition Defense Fleet, withdrawn trade access, revoked emergency medical network, suspended navigation beacons, deactivated. Beside me, Commander Ryan whispered, "They're dismantling us while we're still standing." I looked across the council floor. The Keshari delegates, whose colonies we had defended during the Rift Wars. The Solari Union, whom we had supplied during the famine on Helix 9. The Vec Consortium, whose orbital stations our engineers had rebuilt. Not one representative stood, not one objected. It was as though gratitude had an expiration date. Ambassador Selene bowed her head for only a moment, then she straightened her uniform. "I hope," she said quietly, "that when this council someday asks for help, someone remembers today." She turned and walked away. No applause, no insults, only silence. I hurried after her through the endless white corridors of the Coalition Citadel. "They already know," she said. "The Dominion." My stomach tightened. She stopped beside one of the observation windows. "Our border surveillance satellites just went dark. They didn't fail. They were disabled from outside." My blood ran cold. The Dominion knew this vote would happen, I think. They helped make sure it did. By the time we launched from the station, long-range sensors were already detecting unidentified fleets moving toward Arkan space. Not dozens, not hundreds, thousands. The invasion hadn't started after the vote. The vote had been the signal. Our journey home would take 14 hours. For the first 6 hours, every channel remained silent. Coalition Command ignored us. Former allies ignored us. It was as if the galaxy had already accepted that we no longer existed. Then I remembered an archive I had studied years earlier. A forgotten civilization, never invited into the Coalition, never interested in joining. A species many diplomats mocked as emotional, stubborn, and impossible to control. "Humans?" Commander Ryan noticed me opening an ancient communications registry. "Who are you calling?" "I don't know. I'm looking for someone who never promised to protect us." The registry contained one surviving relay frequency, untested for almost 30 years. I hesitated only once. Then I pressed transmit. "This is Communications Officer Taran Voss of the Arkan Republic. Our civilization has been abandoned by the Galactic Coalition. Enemy fleets are moving toward our home system. We don't know if anyone is still listening." A long silence followed. I closed my eyes. "If anyone hears these words, please remember that we tried." The transmission disappeared into the darkness between the stars. No confirmation, no response, nothing. Commander Ryan quietly powered down the transmitter. "I suppose that's the end." I looked through the bridge viewport at the endless sea of stars. "No, I think it's the beginning of something. I just didn't know whether it would be hope or the final mistake my people would ever make." The message traveled for almost 17 hours before anyone heard it. It arrived in a room barely larger than a classroom. The deep signal monitoring station beneath the Andes Mountains, where thousands of antennas spent every second listening to the silence between stars. Dr. Maya Carter had just reached for another cup of coffee when her console chimed. "Unknown extrasolar transmission detected." Then my voice filled the room. "This is Communications Officer Taran Voss of the Arkan Republic. She listened without moving. When the recording ended, she played it again, then a third time. Finally, she pressed the emergency call button. Station Director Elias Morgan hurried in. "Can we verify it? It's real, no manipulation." He folded his arms. "So, they're asking for help. They don't even know if anyone is out here." Neither of them noticed the station's AI quietly calculating something else. Estimated arrival of hostile fleet, 38 hours. Estimated survival probability of the Arkan Republic, less than 4%. 4 hours later, the recording echoed through humanity's interstellar council. When the message ended, nobody spoke immediately. President Amelia Hayes finally broke the silence. "Verification. We've confirmed the signal came from outside explored human space. No evidence of fabrication." Admiral Marcus Kane leaned forward. "And if it's genuine, they're already losing." Foreign Affairs Secretary Daniel Brooks sighed. "This is exactly why we stayed independent. We know almost nothing about this coalition, even less about the Dominion. If we intervene, we could start an interstellar war." General Sofia Alvarez agreed. "We acknowledge the message. We express sympathy. We avoid military involvement." President Hayes looked toward Admiral Kane. "You've been unusually quiet." He asked only one question. "How long ago was this transmitted?" 17 hours, he nodded slowly. "They sent that message believing nobody would answer. And yet, here we are." He stood. "My instructor once told me, one day, somewhere in the dark, someone will call for help. When that day comes, I hope humanity still remembers how to answer." Brooks said, "That's a beautiful story." "It is not policy," Kane agreed. "It isn't, but policy doesn't have to explain who we are." The debate continued for nearly 3 hours. Outside, the clock kept moving. 32 hours remained. Finally, President Hayes stood. "I think we've asked the wrong question. We've spent 3 hours asking whether helping them is worth the risk. What happens if someday humanity sends a message like this, and everyone decides we're not worth the risk either?" No one answered, because no one could. She reached toward the central console. "Authorize Operation Open Hand," General Alvarez blinked. "Madam President, that's never been activated." "I know, it was written for exactly this situation." Within seconds, encrypted messages raced across human space. Not orders, invitations, one message, one sentence. "A civilization has asked for help. Who is willing to answer?" No one expected what happened next. The first volunteer registered 22 seconds later, then another, then 50, then hundreds. Cargo captains unloaded freight they would never deliver. Engineers canceled vacations. Retired warship crews reopened mothballed hangars. Nobody forced them. Nobody paid them. They simply made the same decision. And nearly 20 light years away, I still believed no one ever would. I didn't know that hundreds of people were already changing the course of history. All I knew was that 28 hours had passed, and no one had answered. By the time the Resolute crossed into Arkan space, the Dominion fleet had moved much closer, surrounding the outer jump lanes like hunters waiting outside a cave. Every defense buoy guarding our frontier had gone silent. It was as if the coalition had erased every sign they had ever been there. Our home system stood alone. When we reached the orbital docks above Arkan Prime, nobody celebrated our return. For the first time in my life, I saw fear on every face. My mother embraced me before I could speak. People are saying the Dominion is only days away. They are. And the coalition, I couldn't answer. She already understood. That evening, the High Defense Assembly met beneath the old planetary archive. Grand Marshal Corvin activated the tactical map. "We have 47 combat-capable vessels." The room remained silent. "The Dominion has approximately 2,000. A young officer finally asked, "So what exactly are we discussing?" Corvin answered honestly, "How long we can delay them." No one talked about victory, only how many civilians could reach shelter before orbit became impossible. Every discussion assumed one thing: we would lose. Late that night, I returned to the communications center out of habit. The transmitter still displayed the same message. No response received. I reached forward and deleted the transmission log. Commander Ryan walked in behind me. "You've given up." "No, I've accepted reality. If anyone even heard us, they probably decided we weren't worth the risk." After a while, he spoke quietly. "You know what frightens me most? Not dying. I'm afraid history will believe we deserved this." 31 light-years away, history was moving much faster. Cargo freighters, mining vessels, and exploration ships all asked the same question. "Where do you need us?" An elderly mechanic smiled. "We're not lining up for war. We're lining up so someone else doesn't have to face it alone." Back on Earth, President Hayes received another briefing. "We've counted 612 volunteer vessels. Most are civilian." Brooks rubbed his temples. "This is becoming impossible to control." Alvarez smiled for the first time in days. "Maybe, but it's also becoming impossible to stop." The president watched from the observation window as dozens of ships climbed toward orbit, one at a time. No speeches, no cameras. People simply left. 20 hours remained before the Dominion reached Archon Prime. The evacuation sirens finally sounded. Children were escorted beneath the cities. My younger sister found me outside the communications tower and handed me a small crystal pendant. "So if someone finds you, they'll know you had a family." I couldn't answer. I simply hugged her. Just before midnight, every warning alarm across the capital activated, not because the Dominion had attacked, but because they had stopped, halting exactly one light tower beyond our outer defense line. A transmission arrived. "I am Supreme Commander Drax Kor. You have 12 hours. Surrender your planetary government. Deactivate all remaining defenses. Deliver your fleet intact. Do this, and 10% of your population will be permitted to live." Someone whispered, "He calls that mercy." Ambassador Cellini said quietly, "No, he calls it certainty." None of us noticed. Far beyond Dominion scanners, hundreds of human ships had already entered hyperspace, flying harder than their engines had ever been designed to endure. For a heartbeat, no one moved. The tactical display was overflowing with new contacts. Hundreds became thousands, so many that our tracking computers stopped assigning numbers. Captain Amelia Ray's voice came over every open frequency. "Archon Command, this is the Human Relief Fleet. We're taking defensive positions around your world." Grand Marshal Corvin blinked. "Relief Fleet? That's not a military designation." "No," I whispered, "it isn't." Ships of every imaginable shape emerged from hyperspace: patrol vessels, battered cargo freighters, mining ships, hospital ships, construction tugs. No two looked alike. It was the strangest fleet I had ever seen, and somehow it was also the most beautiful. Commander Drax Kor's voice cut across every channel. "You have entered a military exclusion zone. You have 60 seconds to withdraw." Captain Reyes answered. "We're not here to invade. We're here to protect civilians." Drax Kor laughed. "You intend to stop my fleet with cargo ships?" Reyes smiled. "No, with people." The battle began. Dominion fighters surged forward in massive formations. The human fleet scattered, not broken, but never formed as one fleet at all. Every captain moved independently, forcing the Dominion into dozens of smaller engagements instead of one overwhelming assault. Mining ships deployed drones that blinded enemy sensors. Construction vessels launched shield projectors around our orbital platforms. Medical ships pulled damaged vessels from the fighting. Cargo freighters rearmed our exhausted defense ships mid-battle. It wasn't a fleet built for war. It was a civilization solving problems together. Commander Drax Kor ordered his heavy cruisers forward. Massive plasma beams overwhelmed 2 human escort ships and both exploded within seconds. Captain Ray's voice came across the channel. "Rescue teams, move!" No anger, no panic, just calm determination. 3 nearby civilian ships abandoned the battle line, not to attack, but to save survivors. "They're risking their own ships for 12 people," I said. Grand Marshal Corvin looked at me. "They don't leave anyone behind." The words stayed with me. No alliance I had ever known had worked that way. The battle raged for another hour, and slowly the Dominion's perfect formation began to unravel. Their commanders had prepared to fight a navy. Instead, they found themselves fighting thousands of independent decisions. Every time they created an opening, someone filled it. Then open transmissions began flooding the system, not from Earth, but from inside the Coalition, replaying footage of the battle. Entire worlds were watching. They saw who had abandoned us. They saw who had answered. Public outrage spread across Coalition space, and patrol groups that had withdrawn days earlier quietly turned back to our border, not to fight, but to keep the Dominion from receiving reinforcements. Drax Kor realized his fleet was becoming isolated. Captain Reyes seized the moment. "This is your last warning. You came expecting victims. You found allies. Leave." His expression hardened. Finally, he gave the order. "All Dominion forces, withdraw." We simply watched as thousands of enemy ships slowly turned away from our world. Hours earlier, we had expected extinction. Now our skies were clear. Grand Marshal Corvin lowered his head, not in defeat, but in gratitude. 2 days later, the Coalition called an emergency session and asked us to return. The same Chancellor who had erased our place among the stars said, "The Coalition wishes to restore the Arkan Republic's membership." Ambassador Selene answered calmly, "When we needed allies, you gave us paperwork. When we asked for protection, you gave us excuses." She looked toward Captain Reyes. "They gave us ships. We have already found the alliance we were looking for." No one argued, because no one could. Walking beside Captain Reyes through the same corridor where I once believed I had witnessed the end of my civilization, I said quietly, "When I sent that message, I didn't think anyone would answer." She smiled. "My grandfather used to tell me something. If someone sends a message into the dark, be the reason they stop believing they're alone." Years have passed since the Battle of Arkan Prime. Our worlds now trade freely. People often ask me what truly saved my civilization, expecting fleets, weapons, strategy. They're always surprised by my answer. We were not saved by humanity's strength. We were saved by humanity's decision. Because on the day the rest of the galaxy decided we were no longer worth protecting. One distant world looked into the darkness, heard a stranger ask for help, and answered. Sometimes that is enough to change the history of the stars subscribed.